Yeah, it's we've got a Ring doorbell, and Adam he's like tidying his car up, so he keeps going in and out the house. So every time there's motion at the front door, it jingles.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I love all those things like the Ring doorbell of like someone tried to get in. It's like a bumblebee, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, we get motion detected, and it's just shadows. Like in the early morning, shadows set it off, and it's so annoying.
I'm guessing that doesn't help for someone who's like scared of ghosts. Of like, there's something outside your house, and it's just a shadow.
That or next door has window cleaners, and I'm just like, who's this man? It's just some man stood outside.
It's ridiculous. But speaking of which, Nisha, what is the biggest waste of money that you've spent money on in the last couple of years?
I mean, I can't think of like one specific thing, but I'm terrible when it comes to buying clothes because I'll buy clothes that I'm not sure about because I like to try new things. I'll just buy it. But then even if I don't like it or it's the wrong size, I'm too lazy to return it. So I end up just having it sat in the wardrobe. So I've wasted so much money just buying clothes that I don't want or don't really fit. So it's a bad habit.
Fortunately, all my stuff's shit anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Except for this t-shirt, which we sell in our merch store. Check it out. Check it out. Oh, that organic ass plug. A common complaint about modern art is that it's lazy, pretentious, and usually results in the creation of something any person on the street could have made with a Big Mac, a canvas, and enough force. Use your imagination to work out what I mean by that one. That makes sense, right? You know, you throw the Big Mac at the canvas.
I guess, yeah. Some people would call that art.
I don't know. I don't know much about modern art. I'm really sorry. A popular rebuttal to which is, you just don't understand. Which has never been more true for an art installation, simply and aptly titled, The K Foundation Burn £1 Million, which saw a group who called themselves, funnily enough, The K Foundation, burning £1 million for no reason.
That sounds like fun. I'm assuming they had, a lot of money to burn.
Oh, well, they had literally £1 million to burn, Nisha, but are you familiar with the K Foundation at all?
The name rings a bell, but if you ask me who they are, what they're about, I'd be like, I don't know.
Okay, well, are you familiar then with a band called the KLF?
No, that sounds less familiar.
Okay, well, the K Foundation were formed after the dissolution of a band called the KLF, which prior to their dissolution was one of the most popular in the world. If I can play a clip of one of their songs without being copyright struck, I will do so now.
Good luck.
For anyone who's not familiar with them or just wants to hear what their music sounds like, hopefully a clip plays now. Otherwise,
just do 1 second.
And in this particular case, if we get copyright struck for playing a bit of music from this band, I'm really annoyed because, as I'm about to explain, this band does not give a fuck.
Yeah, so you'd think they'd let us go away with just a couple of seconds of song.
But we're about to talk about how they literally burned £1 million for absolutely no reason. But if you're not too familiar with the band, I'll give a quick brief overview for you, Nisha, and the folks at home who don't know who they are. And I have their names in front of me here, Jimmy Colty and Bill Drummond. And as the K Foundation, they were an avant-garde art group, and it was formed pretty much just as an excuse for Colty and Drummond to express themselves creatively after they dissolved the KLF. And we have to talk about how they quit music forever because it's baller as fuck.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, it's worth noting, prior to them quitting music forever, although they did come back a couple of years later, as all bands do, they were one of the best-selling and best-known and most popular bands on Earth. They had like a #1 hit, they had millions of album sales, they were touring to massive crowds, and they didn't really like that. So what they did is they won a Brit Award, and they turned up with machine guns loaded with blanks, fired that at the audience, threw a dead sheep at the judges, announced that they were retiring from music, and then deleted their entire back catalogue.
What the fuck? Why do musicians do really crazy things? It's like it's not as extreme as say G.G. Allen.
Yes,
that was an extreme case, but still, what?
But Nisha, discuss.
I'm I don't even know what to say to that. Like, why did they pretend to shoot the audience?
Anisha, I'm just going to spoil this for you. The answer to all of your question is, I don't know, because whenever people ask Corsi and Drummond about why they did what they did, back in the day and today, because they're still going and still doing things like this, is,
No. May I ask what is going on? No?
Excuse me, we've got a queue. Can you move along? Come on.
That's not a permissible question.
No questions.
Thank you very much.
It's the case of, why did you do this? Their answer being, why not?
basically yes. And while they were making music under the name of the KLF, they were frustratingly opaque about what they actually wanted to achieve from their musical careers, and they largely eschewed all of the common trappings of musicians at the time. For example, they never announced when they were releasing or making new albums. They just graffitied over other artists' album announcements on billboards and stuff. Or they would take out cryptic ads in newspapers and trade publications saying stuff like KLF making new music by.
Bill Drummond and Jimmy Corti were basically sort of art punks in the 80s. They sort of hung out with the Teardrop Explodes, and they're all part of this sort of Liverpool scene. But they were the Situationists. They were the ones that would come up with all of the just madcap ideas and just decide, let's go and do it, yeah.
For me, they're just taking the piss the whole time.
Oh my god. I don't know why that's just reminded me of something that happened recently in real life. Is someone my mum works with, she had a car graffitied and they just wrote twat.
You can't say that when I'm taking a sip of coffee, Nisha. There's just something so amusing about just writing twat in massive letters.
Oh god, yeah, I couldn't stop laughing.
It's such an insulting thing to do, isn't it? Just twat.
But yeah, apparently they did it on a few cars, so she wasn't targeted or anything, but just
They just wrote twat in massive letters on your mother's car for no reason. Yeah, the same is true of Corsi and Drummond. Whenever they were asked by the press in the rare times they could get to sit down for an interview and be serious, their answers would vary between meandering garden path answers that didn't really say anything and just And I respect that. I have big respect for them just deleting their entire back catalogue, because that is such a baller fucking move. And of course, nothing is ever truly deleted, and we still have access to all of their music today, because there were people abroad who still had access to the licenses for their music and things like that. So while they deleted all the masters that they had, copies and recordings were of course out there in the ether, so they couldn't completely destroy the footprint they left in music. Although they did try.
It's very much like the, I don't think you watch this channel, but the Unisonis thing of Mark and Ethan, where they did a year's worth of content every day and then deleted the channel. But there's still access to the videos because someone made an archived website. Even though they were please don't post our work online, because the whole point of it was to it to be deleted completely. You make the most of it while it's there. And then once it's gone, it's gone. But obviously, that never happens.
Of course, yes. That's very similar to what Drummond and Corti did. It is a statement, isn't it, of on the effervescence of art, if you want to be fancy and pretentious about it. Of we're going to create something, then delete it. And you can read what they did multiple ways. Does the knowledge that they're going to delete those videos lower or raise their value in your mind? And for a lot of people, it raises the value because there's a limitation to it, even though on the internet, the idea of something existing in a limited quantity is laughable because you can just infinitely copy anything you want forever.
Yeah, it's much harder to do now.
And the example you use there, is it Unisonis?
Unisonis, yeah.
Yeah, that is essentially modern art distilled of questioning what art itself is. Questioning your comprehension and idea of what art can be. And I love stuff like that. I'm always a big fan of when creatives just do something interesting just because they can and it's never been done before.
Someone asked me a year ago why I was doing this, why we were making a channel and putting so much effort into it just to delete it. They didn't understand it. They couldn't understand it. They were like, it didn't make any sense. Why would someone put all that effort into something they were just going to get rid of? They were just going to throw away. And I said, it'll make sense when it ends.
Yeah, I was they post obviously videos every day, and I watched every video. Just because it was going to be gone in a year's time, so it's I need to watch it now because I won't get that chance again.
It's very similar to what Drummond and Corti were doing, back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, deleting their entire back catalogue, which of course resulted in a bunch of people, hoarding their music because now it has value. That's a pretty interesting thing for them to have done. But they did and whether or not you like that, and whether or not you agree with what they did, it at least got. And whether or not you agree with what they did, you can't not. And whether or not you agree with what they did, you have to admit it was interesting.
Definitely different. So I'm assuming not a lot of musicians or artists did that sort of thing.
Not a lot of musicians even own the rights to their music anymore. Do you remember Taylor Swift had to re-record one of her albums because she didn't have the rights to it anymore?
Yeah.
So she just re-recorded the entire album and released that instead.
Good on her.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the music industry is rife with this sort of thing, and Colty and Drummond were drawing attention to that stuff through these acts of protest, but also they were just doing it for fun and to troll the media and their fans because they really, really did not give a fuck, which resulted in them burning £1 million.
That is a lot of money to burn.
That is a lot of money, but they actually ended up destroying more than £1 million, Nisha, because when they formed the K Foundation, the stated goal was for Drummond and Colty to be able to express themselves creatively, but the other, less publicised goal was to spend literally every single penny they had earned as the KLF, which was a lot easier to do when they were a band because they would reportedly spend pretty much all the money they were paid for performances on the performances themselves.
Okay, fair, yeah.
So they would put on these amazing, just eclectic shows that people would come from miles around to see. And they would spend every penny they had putting on these shows because they didn't want to keep the money they made from being a band. However, after they stopped being a band, the royalties started coming in. So they weren't touring anymore, but they were still getting royalties from the music they sold. And even though they deleted their back catalogue as mentioned, there were some rights holders overseas who were still selling albums, and there were still plays on radio stations around the world. So they were entitled to these royalties that kept pouring in. And Drummond and Colty just tried their damnedest to get rid of them.
It's oh no, more money. Oh god, the horror.
Well, some of the stuff they did is quite commendable. For example, they set up a fund for artists who didn't really have any money to just go do what they wanted.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
But the thing they're most notable for is just making art installation pieces using the money they had.
The Turner Prize for Art, which was won last night by Rachel Whiteread, has always been something of a controversial award. But the drama surrounding last night's announcement make previous rows look positively genteel. To begin with, just before being picked as Best Artist of the Year, with a cheque for £20,000 to back it up, Rachel Whiteread learnt that she had also been singled out as Worst Artist of the Year in an alternative award funded to the tune of 40 grand by the K Foundation, set up by the former rock group KLF as a bizarre and pricey comment on the state of contemporary art.
Oh God, like what?
Well, one of them was that they nailed about 50,000 English pounds to a wall.
Or just in a canvas, or
on a canvas?
Oh, for that, yeah.
In a museum, and they offered it for sale. Quite cheekily, offering it for sale for half the stated value of all the cash that they used.
They wanted to discuss their ideas and the projects that they had in mind with people in the art world, because they saw it very much, or were trying to see it very much, as art. Oh, wow.
And their arty-farty explanation was are you getting a bargain on the money that's here, or is it worth more because it's now been touched by the hands of well-known artists? And that is something that's kind of interesting to think about, isn't it? Of
yeah,
we're going to sell this for half the face value of the cash we used, and they were interested in whether or not people would pay less or more for it than the face value, because an artist hand has touched it, and it's it's quite noteworthy now, because these stunts got them a lot of column inches, and it reminds me a little bit of what Banksy does. Do you remember when he destroyed one of his own paintings?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And everyone was like, oh my god, he destroyed one of his own paintings, but because he destroyed his painting, the painting ended up being worth more because now it's it's notorious.
Yeah, it was made and destroyed by him. It makes it worth more.
Which is one of those things that's wait, what? And that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The act of Banksy trying to destroy his own artwork to make it worth less made it worth more.
I'm just thinking of the the SpaceWolf stuff now. I mean, I don't know when this video is going out. We would have probably destroyed the stuff by then, but it's like making me think about how we're having to destroy art in creative ways.
So I have like one of the things in front of me now. So if people have not checked out the Untitled Side channel, which you can find a link below, we were sent some artwork from a frequent channel contributor, SpaceWolf. And what they do is at the end of their production runs on their website, again, which you can find a link below. It's not a plug, it's just, it came up organically. They destroy the original artwork so that the things that they sell have, like, inherent value in the sense that they will never be created again. Like, they are, in a sense, unique and will never be replicated. And they asked us if we can destroy it on their behalf because we mentioned it as a joke in a video. So this is like the note they sent. They want me to burn after we're done with the aforementioned destruction.
Yep. So we have to find ways to destroy it creatively, and then we're going to make our own art piece out of the destruction that we've made.
And we're going to send it to a fan, like any random fan who's subscribed to the Untitled Stand on Patreon. And this is very similar to what we're talking about today. Of like, is that worth more than the original artwork that we destroyed? Is it worth less? Is it different? How do you quantify what the value is?
I don't know.
And,
I think I feel like that's
questions.
I feel like that's based on opinion.
It is.
I don't really know.
It's the classic thing is that art is subjective. Like when you go around a museum and people go, I don't like that. It goes, well, it's subjective. Some people do.
Yeah.
And it's the old thing, isn't it, about how much is a painting really worth? Well, it's worth whatever people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah. That's why I found like during uni, like when we're doing basically film pieces and stuff, it's like, well, what if my tutor doesn't like what I've done, but it is good? Well, would I get marked down because they don't like it?
Well, it's the essence of art, and I hate to say what we do is art. So I'm just going to say what we do is creative. Like, these videos are a creative endeavor, and the value that they have is entirely subjective. I'm aware of that. Like, just the fact we've got this green screen here. We're recording in front of the green screen. So some people, this green screen, just me stood in front of this, adds value, quote unquote, to our videos. Because in their head, they have an attachment to it. But other people, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, like the whole corners thing, because when I started doing the focus videos, people were like, we want the corners back. It's like, are the videos not as good without the corners?
Yeah, and like this thing, some people out there are probably rolling in their eyes, but I love this sort of thing. I could talk about it all day, but we haven't got time, so I have to move on to the burning of £1 million.
So you mentioned that they nailed a load of money to a wall.
They actually did that multiple times with increasingly large amounts of money just to see if people were willing to pay for it. And they also did things like put money in a skip. Like real money, like real crisp £50 notes, and then try and sell that just to see if people would be willing to buy it. Like they would try to see if people would literally buy cash for more or less than the face value, just to see what would happen. It's like a statement on art and its value and its effervescence and all that good stuff. So it's great. I love stuff like this. Like I hate modern art, but I love thinking about it. Like Damien Hirst, like cutting sharks and stuff in half. It's like everyone always looks and goes, oh, anyone could do that. And then the rebuttal is, well, you didn't.
Yeah, you could class anything as art these days.
Anything can be, yeah. Like I said, everything has value to somebody. It's like the Andy Warhol quote, isn't it? Of like, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. And there's a new variation on that for the digital age, which I quite like. Of in the future, everyone will be famous to 15 people. And that's never been more true with the advent of things like Twitch and social media. Like everybody has an audience to which they are famous too, but outside of that small bubble that they exist within, like no fucking knows who they are.
Yeah.
But to that small group, that person does, like anything that person creates will have value, but that value is incredibly niche, incredibly specific, and I love it. But let's move on to the burning. So Nisha, what would it take for you to burn £1 million?
A lot, because that's a lot of money, and I personally wouldn't want to get rid of that. If I had that to hand right now, I would not be burning that at all.
The answer usually is more than the £1 million itself. As
Close
mentioned,
enough.
The K Foundation's, their hidden stated goal was to get rid of all the money they made as a band. And according to legend, while Cowsey and Drummond were sat in a cafe or a pub somewhere, trying to figure out ways to get rid of the money, because these art installations they did were not getting rid of it fast enough. It was basically Brewster's Millions. As a joke, one of them suggested, why don't we just burn it? Which made them think, yeah, why don't we just burn it?
That film actually runs for the best part of an hour, and we're keeping it up on that screen there, rolling as we talk. So why, Bill? Why?
There was a lot of reasons why, and there's still we're still discovering reasons every day.
And they decided to turn that into an art piece of its own, simply titled, as mentioned, the K Foundation Byrne £1 million. Quid being slang for pound over here in the UK.
Yeah, aptly named. It's like not any mysterious sort of vague name. It's just, yeah, telling you how it is.
But from that name as well, though, don't you want to watch it? Because, like, you think,
Yeah.
okay, they burn £1 million. Well, they don't really burn £1 million. There's got to be some trickery there. It's like, no, they really did burn £1 million. Well, actually, no, that's not technically correct, because according to the one person besides the two that were there, the cameraman, about £50,000 of the money just shot straight up the chimney.
So it just went straight up the chimney instead of like staying on the fire.
Like literally went up in smoke. So probably curious, Nisha, how do they go about burning the money? Because, you know, this is a lot of money. That's it. And now I bet everyone at home's like really hooked. Of like, wait, there's thousands of pounds out there floating around. Where is it? So should clarify where they did this. They did it in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland in a tiny little cabin that was abandoned. And they got the money in fresh English sterling, took it there, set a fire, got the cameraman to set up his camera, and then just sat there for about, I think, an hour, 2 hours. They would later recall just feeding £50 notes into the fire as their cameraman recorded them.
But the cameraman's there like, oh, fuck's sake.
I imagine being that cameraman. Now imagine.
I was like, oh, all this money just gone to waste.
And for anyone wondering, yes, there is footage of this, but like the fact we have that is kind of miraculous, as I'll get to in a moment. But yep, they sat there just a couple of hours just feeding £50 note after £50 note into the fire until it had all gone, and then just sat there in complete silence for a few minutes. And according to the guy who filmed it, it was really surreal because there was no emotion on either guy's face whatsoever. Like they actually looked bored by the halfway point because they realised how much more money they had to burn.
I'm just imagining like the cameraman watching it with like Moonlight Sonata playing in his head.
Well, that's the thing, you could put any song in the background and make that like sad, can't you?
Yeah.
And do you know what, Nisha? Like, you know, we can get the footage. What song should I put in the background?
Oh my god, you could put anything.
So I'm going to put Tizanakan, because that to me is just like the meme song I've been using in a lot of videos recently. But is there any sad song you could think I could put in the background as just these two guys feed £50 notes into a fire?
I don't know why I just thought of, I don't know if like you've seen it on TikTok, that sound clip that's, I think it's originally like Miss Piggy, but it's like, didn't I do it for you?
I'm not familiar with it, but I'll ask you when I'm doing the edit and you can send me the clip and I'll put that in as well. But right, and if anyone's wondering, like, there has to be a trick here, right? That can't have really been £1 million. It was £1 million. Like, it was every penny the band had earned, and there's been, like, you know, much written about this since it happened, because it was an urban legend for years. Because you might think, well, maybe they were making some sort of statement on, like, you know, the value or lack thereof of money, or, like, you know, the value we ascribe to the power of money. And it's like, well, we don't really know what they were trying to say because the band have never really talked about it. And immediately after they were done creating the film, they told the filmmaker to delete the footage.
Oh my god. I think it's just all for a laugh though, isn't it? I think they obviously avoid telling people why they did it because they want people to be confused.
Exactly, yes. That's exactly why they did it, in my opinion, anyway.
And people seem to get stuck on the kind of, you know, the charity thing, the why didn't you give it to me, and it's, you know, it gets more interesting if people can move on and see it as something else.
But like, they told the guy to delete the footage and he wisely didn't, because this is one of the most incredible things I'm ever going to film, and it quickly became, like, you know, an art circuit hit, because people were coming in like, have you seen that film, those guys burning £1 million? And the filmmaker himself almost lost the film because when he was doing a showing at like some like arts hall somewhere, someone in the audience started a rumour that oh, if you buy a ticket to entry, you get a piece of the film afterwards to keep for yourself. And they mobbed the guy who had the film to try and steal it off him and cut it into pieces.
Shit. Oh my god.
And he had to escape with it, and then obviously copies got made, and now you can like find it on YouTube. And if that would have been the case, this £1 million would have quite literally just disappeared, and no one would have known where it went.
Yeah, and no one would have believed it either. If there was no evidence, be like, no one would burn that much No one would burn that much money.
And that's what's happened in the years since. Like Colty and Drummond get asked about it every time they do an interview, and they always just say it's like, which means yes, dear listener or watcher, if you actually watch these and like the green screen, I have no answer for you about why the K Foundation burned £1 million. Besides, they did it for a laugh. Which is wildly unsatisfying, but at the same time, kind of hilarious. Like you said, just the confusion it causes is probably worth more than the £1 million itself.
Yeah, it's the whole point of the joke, clearly. Just leave people confused.
It's actually like incredible. Like that I consider myself to be quite a principled person, but I could not burn £1 million for a joke.
No.
So
definitely
props
not.
to those guys. Oh, right, so let's double check the time we've got on.
26 minutes.
Oh, okay, so we went on a bit quick there. So we'll call it there. Like, we put some stuff in our life for a little chat.
Yeah, we've went on a few tangents, so.
Yep, so I'll just switch this.
Was by doing this, it's gone to the big bank in the sky. And
Kidding yourself, Bill. Kidding yourself.
Yeah, so when we die and we go to heaven, there'll be £1 million waiting for us, aren't there?
Okay. With interest.
Yeah, with interest. Yeah.
Think of all